So I hear questions a lot about, can I drink coffee while I'm fasting? So the short answer is yes. It's fine to drink coffee while you're fasting. And that includes short fasts or long fasts, various types of fasting. It's fine to drink coffee. Now, of course, I'm generally referring to black coffee. So if you start adding a bunch of things to it, it's going to be a little bit different. But in general, it's fine to drink coffee while you're fasting, and you can still get a bunch of health benefits. So for example, if you're trying to reduce body fat, if you're trying to normalize your blood sugar and improve your diabetes, if you're trying to improve your blood pressure, if you're trying to treat something like polycystic ovary syndrome, then drinking coffee while you fast is not going to prevent you from reaching any of those goals. So it would only be if you were trying to do a very strict fast that you would not use something like coffee, that you would eliminate something like coffee as well. So what about the scenario where you're drinking something like bulletproof coffee, or keto coffee is another name for it, where you add butter or you add MCT oil or you add coconut oil to your coffee. So you're putting all this fat in your coffee, mixing it in, and then maybe you have 300 or 400 or 500 calories worth of fat in your coffee. So what about that? Well, basically, that's fine too. Especially if you're a beginner, go ahead and use some bulletproof coffee when you're fasting. No problem. But in the long run, it's kind of more like what we would call training wheels, something where you're doing it just to make it easier at the beginning, but in the long run, maybe you don't want to always drink that while you're fasting. So one way to think of it is when you don't eat, you get into fat burning mode, and that's one of the benefits of fasting, of course. You go into fat burning mode after a while. But if you drink a whole bunch of extra fat while you're doing that, then obviously there's a bunch of extra energy coming in, and your body won't need to use as much of your own body fat because you're drinking a whole bunch of extra fat. Now, the advantage of bulletproof coffee is that it can boost your ketone levels, and that's especially helpful if you're on a ketogenic diet or if you're doing a prolonged fast for, say, 2 days or more, and then your ketones are going to get really high eventually, and the bulletproof coffee can help boost your ketones anywhere along that path. So those are kind of the pros and the cons. Another potential advantage of drinking coffee is that there's some research showing the caffeine can boost your fat burning a little bit. It's probably not a huge impact, but just one other thing to be aware of. So the bottom line is yes, black coffee is definitely fine while you fast, and bulletproof coffee is okay, especially if you're a beginner, but you might not want to use a ton of it all the time. So I wrote a detailed blog post about this as well, so I'll put a link in the video description, which you can see there. And I have a blog with a bunch of other beginner resources about fasting. By the way, I'm a PA, physician assistant. That's similar to a doctor, and I work in the emergency room. I've done family practice, and I've spent a lot of time learning about nutrition and fasting and other related topics. So that's kind of my background. So I'll put the links to my blog and my podcast as well, and the specific blog post about fasting and coffee in the video description below. Thanks for listening.